Hi everyone, today is December the 9th, 2017, and this is the Duel Assessment, your podcast for Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links. My name is GreenRanger.
And I'm DeckTech.
And it's been a chill week mostly. The main major event is Marik Ishtar coming back for the second time in our game. The game has a new update actually in version 2.2, and you couldn't really play the game without that version update, so I guess that happened. There's like a lot of behind-the-scenes fixes to the game, a lot of new features. But yeah, Marik is the main topic of the game right now. So, DeckTech, what have you been up to?
Well, like you said, it's been kind of a chill week. This is for the second week in the row where I haven't really played a ton. This time it had nothing to do with the game, really. It was just I've been super busy at work, and then Hearthstone had a set launch this week as well, so I've been doing stuff both for fun and for my also fun but pseudo work, helping out with a website that covers that. So I've been kind of busy, and so mostly just been auto-dueling and collecting all the map fragments so that I'll be ready to go once I can actually dive into farming Marik. And in all of that auto-dueling, I actually finished all my characters, so I now have everyone to level 40. So that was basically the one thing that I did in-game this week.
So no one can send you Vagabond anymore?
They should send them all to you, really.
Oh, I don't know everyone on your friends list. I have enough friends, actually. I got enough of them.
Okay, just transfer them over.
Yeah. Cool.
It would be nice if they did like Hearthstone does, where you can do where you can give each other currency for playing games or whatever. You know, every once in a while they'll have a special
gold quest.
Daily gold quest in Hearthstone that lets you do that. It would be nice if we had a gem quest or something in Duel Links where instead of just sending each other experience, which caps out every couple months, we could send each other something to give, to help out a little bit. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. What are you up to this week?
I actually began the week playing more PvP. I did play less because of Hearthstone, playing the new things there. But I'm about at 40 something wins. I got to Legend 2 with Handless, but then with the same deck I fell back down to Legend 1. So that's where I am. I did most of my playing on stream actually. So that was when I was actually motivated to play. In the last few days, I just played 3 games to get the EX gems. It's important that you play your 3 games each day to get your EX gems. And
yeah, I should have done that. See?
Yeah. I've been playing, weird decks, Handless, Gen X, and Dinosaurs, and I'm just drawing it out on purpose so I can get the 3 SR tickets because you need the 120. And next week I'll actually be in Los Angeles, so I might lose a few days actually when I would normally play. So it's time for me to actually get more wins in case I am busy. I probably will be busy, so yep.
Yeah. And we might be trying to do some sort of live show or something where we're sitting in the same room.
Yeah, we'll avoid a lot of the issues, the technical issues that you don't see by doing that.
Or create a whole new set of technical issues.
Unless my computer gets lost.
Yeah, well.
Then there'll be no more podcast. That'll be the end.
I'll be weirdly staring into your eyes while we're talking.
That'll be the end of the podcast, actually, once my computer goes. Because all the setup is there, and it's just going to be no podcast.
I thought you were saying if I weirdly stared into your eyes, you're like, that's it, this is over.
No. I meant my computer being destroyed and or lost. All the things to put up the podcast are on it. So, yeah, that's the end.
Yeah, it would take a lot to bring all that back.
Yep. So hopefully that doesn't happen next week, and it will go well.
Trust. Yeah.
All right. So, this week in esports, Reddit had their first normal tournament in a while, and it was for $10, so not much, but it's just, it's cool to have another tournament in. Let's talk about these decks. First place, Mr. Simple. What is this deck? Balanced 6 Samurai deck with 1 Inishi. I'm looking at the wrong deck list. Here we go. So, yep. balance, yeah, Zanji, Iru, Yaichi, Hand of the Six Samurai looks pretty standard.
Yeah, I think we were talking about before how there was the split as to which boss monster you would use, and maybe I guess how many, but just one Inishi is this guy's answer. So there's that.
Yeah, that seemed to be the first. That was the one that I was playing. No shoguns, and then some of them have like 2 or 3 shoguns. So this seems like the control build, just because he is an attack, and then there's the back row destruction, and then the front row and the monster destruction. So it's just a more control version, I guess.
Yeah, it also seems to work well internally with the 3 econs, so you can tribute your dudes to then be able to summon Nishi more easily. So that's cool. I might be trying this one out when I actually start playing PvP.
The beatdown Red Eye Zombie, it's a pretty standard one now. This is the one with the Chaos Hunter in it. And storms are pretty standard now, and we'll talk about later why storm is pretty important now in the meta.
Mm-hmm.
And the last deck is the standard Amazonas Burn. We say standard because there's a new deck now, but this is the version with the Amazonas Swordswoman Weevil Parasite version.
Yep, and like you said, it's pretty much what we've seen for the last little bit.
Yep. Deck that is not going away.
No, not when there's still Cyber Angels at the very least.
Right. Second place, Tassim. First deck is an Ice Barriers deck, and this one has a medium with the Ice Barrier, which is a new card from the Water event. And a bunch of the other... This one's pretty interesting. There isn't too much draw. There's only 1 Moray of Greed and 1 Shard of Greed.
Yeah, I agree.
Little ones. They're the spirit, the zombie spirit too. So, I mean, I guess you'll start out with just 1 magic card typically in this balance setup. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes you won't even get it if it's RNG and you lose that card. It'll just be 4 monsters.
Right. I agree. It's a little weird. It looks almost like an old balance deck, and even like kind of a budget one at that, because usually they would run the 2 Morays instead of the Shard there. So I don't know exactly what was going on there, but it's interesting because we haven't seen Ice Barrier in a while in any form.
Yeah. I think my version has 3 Cup of Ace and 3 triangles, and that's it. And that's all the draw I have. The next deck is Mindscan Cyber Angels. Fairly conventional. It only has the 2 searchers though, and the Senju and the Sonic Bird though. So it's a bit of a budget version of a Cyber Angels deck.
Yeah, probably. It also only runs 2 Dakinis, which is I've seen some people do that. It's a little bit of a split. But all of that I think also makes room for he's got 4 different tech cards and then also 2 econs. So lots of trickiness to this one as opposed to just being really devoted to getting out your Cyber Angels.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's the direction Cyber Angels are going because of the meta, possibly, but this is a tournament deck, so it's a little different.
Yeah, maybe.
And dinosaurs, pretty standard dinosaur list. Only 1 black brachio, so this guy probably doesn't have enough PvP wins to get 2. So yeah, pretty standard list here. They run the Fossil Dig, which is pretty common.
Yeah, it's a little bit weird looking to me because it has like a whole bunch of just one-ofs that look kind of random, but I guess they all do, like you can use them for similar effects.
You typically have 3 Electros, so that probably is the space for the Elemental Source or Destroyer Source. 3 Hydrogeddons are pretty standard. The Black Brachios, you try to get as many of them as possible. And the Saber Source isn't a 3 of typically. It's just like an extra monster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then all of these back row cards were just the ones that he liked, I guess.
Yeah, it's a whole assortment.
Yeah.
Third place is Huihi, I guess. Red Eye it's hard to say what the right version is, but they all seem to have Chaos Hunter now and Storm, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, this one's just one card off of the other one where they switched the Storm and the Chalice. Other than that, I think it's the same.
3-star Demotion Ninjas. Pretty standard version. I see more of the armor ninjutsu art of alchemy, actually. I see whenever I play against a ninja deck, they play like 2 of those in a turn. So I guess this person is short one of those cards. And Restart 6 Samurai build, similar to Mr. Simple's. This one has Sergeant Electra, though, which is interesting. Typically, they just destroy the back row instead of locking it down, but they have that there.
Yeah, it also runs 1 powerful Rebirth, which also works with the econs, I guess. He's just using a lot of graveyard utility, so that's kind of cool.
And finally, the 4th place person is Bionic Janitor, and he brought 3-star Demotion Ninjas. This version also... This is a very budget version. There's only 1 transformation and 1 armor alchemy.
Yeah, that's probably like how I would play it if I tried to play it.
It's probably still pretty good just with the 1 transfer. It's less explosive because you get less of the black ninjas out, but it's still pretty good, I think.
Yeah, maybe.
Balanced Gladiator Beast. We see the Rush Reckless. There's this card, I don't know what it is. This N card with the 3 colors.
I don't know what that is either.
I can't zoom well enough to see what that is.
Yeah, me neither. Maybe just like look through my collection.
It's probably one of those. It's probably one of those Gladiator Beast cards that has synergy with them. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. We can see that it's a normal Magic card.
Yep.
So
and there's 3 beams of light.
We'll just describe the picture to the audio listeners and see if they could scream at their podcast catchers loud enough for us to hear.
This is a problem with the deck editor. I kind of wish they had the names of the cards on the side. Because this happens when you can't see it, or if it's in a different language, you have to describe the picture.
Yeah, and then you have to go through. So now I'm like looking at my collection editor to see if I can find a N rarity normal spell, like using the filters and stuff.
Yeah. At least the picture is very distinctive, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess I'll just describe the other deck.
I found it.
Oh, what is it?
Gladiator's Return. Target 3 Glad Beast cards in your graveyard. Shuffle all 3 into your deck and then draw 1 card.
Okay. So I guess I was right. It was one of those cards.
It was. It makes sense a bit because he's got the 3 econs. So sometimes you're using the tribute function. Obviously, sometimes your guys just die throughout the game. So that's kind of cool.
Yep. And the last deck is actually a Dark Paladin deck. It's not farming. This is actually a PvP game with Dark Paladin. Dual Standby. Yeah, this looks just like a farming deck I would use, except it has Mirage Dragon, I guess. Yeah, I guess you play Dark Paladin just to counter any deck that runs a ton of spells, obviously, so, you know.
Yeah, I think it's probably specifically for Cyber Angels, right? He's
right.
Thinking that's a good way to counter them. So it's an interesting deck. You're right. It does look like a farming deck. There's even just 2 traps and their Jar of Greeds, which is like a weird thing to see in constructed non-farming stuff. And it almost looks like you just have the one so you get the trap bonus.
Right. Well, we have all the information, all the deck lists there, so you can check it on the link we provided.
Yeah, there's also even some of the gameplay is there, which is kind of cool. I haven't checked it out yet, but that's nice that it's
they
there.
recorded it for Twitch, or?
Yeah. It says here you can find the archive of the tournament, top cast starting at 2:35. So you can watch a couple hours of games, or you can skip to right there.
Cool. And the Throwback tournament is starting tomorrow, actually. Reddit's putting on a tournament that has the card list going back to the first ever Kaiba Cup in February. But there's a tournament structure instead of just the Kaiba Cup, so you duel until you pass out. This was a tournament in which Decade finally broke out as a duelist in Duel Links. He played the traditional card game, but he brought handless while everyone else brought harpies. That was a pretty interesting time.
Yeah, I'd like to see like what people will do knowing that the breakout hit of that format was handless. And obviously harpies were still good, but they were just everywhere and kind of countering each other and whatnot. So it'd be interesting to see, like, with today's knowledge, what we would do with those days' card pool.
Yeah.
It's also nice to have just the typical tournament structure instead of just the KC Cup structure, which was not that conducive to, like, quality gaming as much as... Obviously, you had to play at a fairly high level since you were competing against other people who were doing well, and only, the good players did compete at that level. But you also had to play for pretty much 2 days straight. So there was a lot of, probably a lower skill cap, and then just the people who met at least that threshold skill cap and then just played a whole ton were the ones who ended up doing well. And so it'd be nice to see a tournament where the limited number of games can more readily highlight, skill over just volume of games. So I'd like to see that.
Yeah. And then there's an unofficial Reddit Pauper tournament too, where you just use your cheapest cards. In this game, the normal cards. So they're organizing that tournament. They started their own Discord too.
Yeah, I love the Pauper format in like other games. It's just a really interesting way to look at the card set. A lot of times it kind of takes the game back to a simpler level, which can be refreshing. That was one of the things that some people really liked about Duel Links at the beginning, was that it was kind of like classic, simple Yu-Gi-Oh! And so when you're playing with just the normal cards, they usually tend to be a little bit simpler. Obviously anyone can, pretty much anyone can play, because you're going to have really ease of getting important cards, and it just makes you think of stuff that you wouldn't normally think of, because obviously if you look at all the meta decks, they're filled with URs and SRs and even rares sometimes, but not a ton of normal rarity cards. So it's nice to have that refreshing take every once in a while. So I'm looking forward to seeing this. I'm hoping that it kind of takes off.
And also, the Duel Links Meta Championship 3 is happening today. This is the big money event that's finally happening. We talked about it 2 weeks ago, and also last week, I believe. So we're going to report on the results next week and see. This is the top level esports in Duel Links, so it's cool to pay attention to this stuff too.
Yeah.
All right, Card Trader has some new cards. Let's talk about the new cards. The old cards are all gone. So the old list of cards like Twin Barrel Dragon, which we could get for EX gems this time around, those are all gone. Yeah. Gemini Trap Hole. It's a regular trap. Activate only when a Gemini monster that is treated as an effect monster is destroyed by battle. Destroy all monsters your opponent controls. So obviously, this is Raigeki. It's pretty good, but the problem is that really difficult condition where the Gemini effect monster needs to be destroyed in battle. And the most common one is Ancient Gear Knight, and Ancient Gears are kind of a lower tier now. So if that's the most common Gemini monster, then this is pretty unplayable, I guess.
Yeah, Heavy Knight sees a little bit of play as well, not nearly as much as it used to, but maybe at some point one or both of those will come back in some sort of control deck or something, and I agree. Obviously, this is a very powerful effect that doesn't quite have a place in the game right now.
Yeah, Geminis are a little tricky because they just go in decks, and sometimes they're not even relied on for their effects. Like the Heavy Knight is just used sometimes because it's a fire type, right? I think like back then the Banish effect was pretty good, But now it's not really used for that anymore because it's too slow, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it is probably too slow, but it is nice to have that effect. You wouldn't play it just for the body, I think. There's a bigger 4-star fire.
Like,
pretty sure.
We played that in Red Eye Zombie because it was a zombie. And
Yeah.
it kind of countered other Red Eyes. That's kind of why it was like a one-of, I guess. But
yeah.
in the
Stuff
fire
like
decks,
that.
yeah.
It's just all like, it's the whole package. So you're using it mostly just as a body, but every once in a while you can get the effect or whatever. But like you said, those ones, it's less common now.
Yep. Gemini Summoner. This is an SR spellcaster, water spellcaster with 1500 attack and 0 defense. Once per turn during your opponent's end phase, you can pay 500 life points. Normal summon or set one Gemini monster from your hand, or you can normal summon one face-up Gemini monster you control, so you turn it into an effect monster. The first time this card would be destroyed by battle each turn, it is not destroyed. So, very interesting. It lets you get an extra summon out for Gemini monsters, and it has 2 lives each turn, basically, from destruction.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like this one. I've already picked up a playset just over time. Not that I'm even using a Gemini deck or even know what deck I would use it in, but it just seems like a really cool card and a cool effect that I hope that I'll be able to find at some point.
Yeah, I like this card a lot. One-Shot Wand. This is an equipped spell, equipped only to a spellcaster monster. It gains 800 attack. If the equipped monster attacks or is attacked, after damage calculation, you can destroy this card, and if you do, draw 1 card. So it's kind of like Wonder Wand, I thought, in that it's more attack, but it draws fewer cards. But it's like a farming card, I think.
Yeah, kind of. I think Wonder Wand would be better, though, if you're using it like for farming purposes.
Right.
Because you get that extra draw. So I don't know if this one really has a place in anything right now.
It's literally unplayable.
Literally.
Yeah. So we mentioned how the cards that were removed are gone. So maybe they'll show up again in the future. Like Twin Barrel was gone for like a day and then it came back. Like you could pay 300 EX gems for it.
Yeah, it's funny.
All right. The Kaiba Cup, the KC report was updated and Konami heard our complaints. The new report was released. It's actually a ton of information. There's just, like 20 or 30 most common monsters, spells, and traps, and skills used during Stage 1 and Stage 2. So they have all that stuff, and the top performing decks too. The most popular cards tell the story, what we expected about Cyber Angels. How the first stage and the second stage were a bit different. I think the first stage, Ancient Gears were the most common cards, I believe. And yeah. Second stage was Cyber Angels. You see them like 1 to 8, but then there's Sphere Kuriboh as number 2. So that's kind of funny, I think.
Yeah, I think it was like Sphere Kuriboh, because we actually talked about it. There was one Cyber Angels list that had 1 in it, and I was like, that's weird. But it seems like it wasn't in Cyber Angels decks for the most part. And apparently it was in just like every other deck, and probably the fact that it's up there is even more baffling because not a ton of people have so many of them. New players wouldn't have them because you'd have to go back and buy packs that haven't really stood the test of time terribly well, and it's like you're buying them specifically for Sphere Kuriboh, which is a little bit expensive, I guess, but maybe it's worth it to you. But I just gotta assume that not that many new players have it. I know even back when it was meta, people were talking about like how if you had 2, you were lucky, when it was meta, it's still meta, but when it was like out. So it's just like crazy that I guess if you have Sphere Kuriboh and you're not running Cyber Angels, or maybe if you are, you even still will run it, and it's a really good card, as evidenced by the fact that pretty much everyone's running it.
Yep. And just looking at the list of monsters, you could kind of tell that, these were the cards we kind of expected. Cyber Angels were number one, and then Ancient Gears, Ninjas. They kind of go in order. It's kind of funny how they go. The burn decks too. Burn decks were, I'd say, in the teens, the mid-teens. So yeah, but the thing is, there were a lot of different archetypes, but not everyone was playing Cyber Angels. But there was no number next to it. Like there was no percent. Like this one. It's just a rank. So we don't know how far ahead Cyber Angels really was, and that'll be overload information for a small game like this, obviously. But that would have been nice to see, I guess. But I don't know if they wanted to show that number.
Yeah, maybe not. They didn't want people rioting, but they did tell us that they're looking into it. Like you said, They heard our complaints, and one of the things just in this announcement that the KC report was like updated, which is interesting because it's not even really related to the KC report, but it says, "We heard your complaints about issues with the KC Cup, including connection errors during duels, cheat tools, and metagame balancing." So some people are thinking that this could mean that we're getting another Cyber Angels ban restriction, which would be interesting because obviously we just had one.
I think Mindscan's going to get hit. I feel like, it's really important to Pegasus, being that's how his skill actually works in the game, in the anime, but I feel like that's too good. Like if they can't, I feel like that's number one, and then if they don't do that, Cyber Angels, like Dakini is going to get like a nerf or something.
Yeah, I'm thinking Dakini more than Mindscan. Like you said, Mindscan's very core to Pegasus, and it is not core to what the problem with Cyber Angels was. In fact, a lot of people during the KC Cup, because there were so many Cyber Angel mirrors and the back row is not very important to Cyber Angel decks themselves, they found it better to run Restart and gain that advantage in the mirror, whereas Mindscan was better against other decks that did run more back row. But so if you have this highly competitive environment in which everyone's running the best deck, then the problem becomes like not the skill that's allowing the deck. The skill just makes the deck a little bit better against certain matchups. And so if you take away Mindscan, they're just going to switch over to Restart, or Balance, or whatever, something to figure out another way to abuse it. Whereas I think if you limit Dakini to 1, maybe, then you're going to probably just get a Saphira hybrid thing. But I think that would be less consistent and probably less powerful because Dakini is super strong. And I still don't get the people who run 2 Dakinis instead of 3 because it's just so good. You're restricting yourself. So it would be hilarious if they restricted Dakini to 2.
Right.
Because then that would be like showing people that was the wrong build to run the 2. But the other thing, though, is if they restrict Dakini to 1, then that means you have to choose between Dakini and the Ritual, I think, because of the weird way they do their banned restricted list. Right. It'd be interesting to see what they go with.
I know Alexis does have more voice lines for other Cyber Angels, so I'll have to see what those cards are and if it clues us into what they're doing. Because if there's like another Cyber Angel, it could take the place of Dakini if it gets nerfed, maybe. Well, I'll have to see which ones those are. So we're looking forward to these changes. I am, at least. Would you be amenable to playing something else?
Yes, yeah, I told you I'm looking into the Samurai and maybe some Glad Beasts. I don't know. There's lots of stuff that I'd try out. Cyber Angels is just super good for laddering because it's really strong and games are really fast.
Right.
And obviously I don't have a ton of time to play my various games that I'm trying to play, so I like to just bang out as many quickly winning games as I could. But that's totally not it's not the only thing I like about the game. I like experimenting with other stuff too, so I would be totally okay with it not being the deck that I'm using.
And the next Kaiba Cup is in February. That's pretty soon. So, well, the meta's probably gonna change completely by then. So, We'll see.
Right, yeah. It's pretty soon, but it's also like a really long time in terms of Duel Links time. So I definitely hope and expect that the meta is going to be significantly different by then. I think they're probably going to do, I forget what the announcement said, but it's going to be, there's the 3 Kaiba Cups, I believe. And then those are all kind of like the ways that you get into the World Champs. And then I think there's going to be a bit of downtime before World Champs. So I expect that the next one's going to be about 3 months after the February one, too.
They also have that mystery event, too.
Yeah, that's right, the mystery event. So that should be fun, maybe.
Yeah. It's like I qualified for World Champs by getting in through the mystery event. Like...
It's just you roll dice. It's Dungeon Dice Monsters is what it is.
That'll be so sweet. I have no idea how to play it, though. Marik is back until the 18th. It's kind of similar to last time where you duel standard and legendary duelists to collect the map pieces in order to fight him. After a bunch of those, you fight rare hunters. First is the Seeker guy with the Exodia deck. Then you fight Arcana, and then you get to fight Marik twice, I believe. And after that, you get to challenge him at the gate. Based on the level at which you challenge him in your duel assessment, you get prizes. So you get your cumulative prize rewards and also the farm rewards. So, we're talking about some of these new cards you get. The Lava Golem you actually get automatically as a 600,000 points, I believe. That's when you get your second Lava Golem. And It's a big deal. It's a really big deal. Those decks that run Lava Golem have 2, so it's twice as likely to come out on the board. And you have to play around having 2 monsters on the board, which kind of sucks because, how else are you going to build your board? You're just playing one monster all the time.
Yeah, it also allows you to clear their board twice. So obviously you play Lava Golem the first one, and if you have some sort of lockdown mechanism for it, as these decks sometimes do, you're either playing it when you have a lockdown mechanism, or you are giving them lethal damage, or you're just desperate and it's the only play you have. But so if you're doing the lockdown, then you've played the one to kill their 2 guys, and then there's one taking up a slot, and then they build up their next 2 slots over the next 2 turns, and then you can kill them again. So you get 2 essentially full board clears that way, which is just really powerful. So I think this is probably the most important thing that's come from this event is the second Lava Golem. I'm not as impressed with all the other stuff that comes from it.
Yeah, and it's probably a good idea to dig for more floodgates. I'm buying Generation Next again so I could get 2. I can't play a million decks just because I only have 1 floodgate, so that's why I'm getting it, but I guess it's even more important now. Ra's Disciple is an SR. The stats are irrelevant, but when it's summoned, you can special summon 2 Ra's Disciples from your hands or deck. So you get to put them all on the board. And it can't be tributed except for the Egyptian god cards. You can't special summon monsters except by the effect of Ra's Disciple. So these guys are only here to get an Egyptian god card out. They also help thin your deck, but there are many ways to do that now. So.
Yeah, it's the most important thing is just that you are setting up for Ra. So you play one of these guys, which is nice because you can draw any one of the 3 to get all 3 out. And then you just have any sort of protection, a windstorm, some econs or something like that, so that in theory you have 3 guys out on the next turn so that you can summon a Ra. So technically possible to get him second turn that way, I guess, on your second turn.
Yep.
If you have just the right little setup.
And you could use double summon same turn, that should work, I think.
Ooh!
Yep.
That's a good point.
Magical Stone Excavation, or they call it Mining for Magical Stones. It's like Spell Reproduction, which is a card that no one knows at all. I didn't even know that card existed. And it's similar to Spell Reclamation, which is a trap card people use to get another Union attack when they only had 1, I think. That was its main use. So it's not very useful at all. Could you think this is useful for Cyber Angels at all? I thought of an idea if your hand sucks and you just have to throw one away to use an absolute ritual and you get a Takini again.
That's interesting. I don't think that it's better than just using the any light monster ritual, but
Oh right, yeah.
but maybe it gives you that utility, and like you said, you get to reuse it kind of um, because of the way the absolute works. So it's not as much of a downside. So that's definitely an interesting like plan, something you can use, and it lets you get back econs too. So it's not
Right.
just a ritual; it has that utility over using just the regular ritual or the generic ritual as well. So
Yeah.
there's some. I might try that out.
Yeah. Throwing away 2 cards is a bit of a barrier though sometimes, but
Yeah, it's a really steep cost for almost every deck, but in farming decks it doesn't matter. And then, like you said, in Cyber Angels you can kind of uh, mitigate that by using it through the absolute ritual. So those are kind of probably the only uses for it.
Yep. Flashbang, trap card. Activate only after damage calculation when a monster your opponent controls made a direct attack. It is now the end phase of this turn. So I talked about this on my stream where I said it was a budget negate attack. And it kind of is, because you have to get hit once. But you could use Kuribo. They call it Curry Bang for some reason. It's a combo, I guess. And Astral Barrier and Spirit Barrier, so you take no damage. And it ends the turn, which it combats Gladiator Beasts, so they can't tag out. So let's say Murmillo hits you, and then he can't tag out. And then also Cyber Angel Takini recycling a card at the end of the turn.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some good uses there.
Yep.
I don't think that it's probably going to be meta, like you said, except for maybe for budget people, but there's definitely some of those benefits that you wouldn't get through other cards that are more meta.
Yep. Finally, the last new card is Double Payback. It's a continuous trap. Activate only when you take 1,000 or more damage from your opponent's card effect. Place 1 payback counter on this card for every 1,000 damage you took. During the end phase of your opponent's turn, destroy this card, and if you do, inflict 2,000 damage to your opponent for each payback counter on this card. So it's specifically for burn decks like Parasite, Lava Golem, and Mask of the Accursed, if you take 2 of them in a turn. And those fire spells. I got brushed down by a deck that ran 300 damage burn. Like, it was just all burn cards. And, like, he hit 2 Cup of Aces, so there was a bit of RNG in me losing that game. but all those burn cards, this counters that. The problem is that is not the primary way people burn you down now, and it's through battle damage, and not effect damage.
Yeah.
Temple of the Mind's Eye, those direct attacks are all battle damage. Amazoness Swordswoman is also battle damage.
True.
Yep. So those are all the new cards. Bunch of old cards as well. And this is the first time you could actually fight Arcana and the Seeker level 10 Rare Hunter at the gate as well. Arcana is kind of useful for those cards that... those Arcana cards, like Dark Eradicator Warlock. I only have 1 copy, actually, so I don't know if I feel like getting it, but you could get it if you want to.
Yeah. I also only have 1. I don't think that we know that it doesn't have any uses nowadays. It might get some, so if I have time, I might get it, but I still haven't even started farming Marik, so
right, yeah.
I'm probably not going to have time.
Yeah. And there's going to be a turnover on the 15th, I believe.
15th?
That's when we get the Egyptian God card, right?
I was pretty sure it was 10th.
I read it somewhere it was on the 15th. But because I knew I was going to be in Los Angeles whenever that was going to happen. We'll just say it's the 15th for now, yeah.
Well, maybe there's like 2 turnovers or something, because I'm looking at the event page, and it says next event December 10th at 2100 my time.
Did they say what it is?
No.
Oh.
Secret event.
I heard that you can challenge level 50 on the 15th, and that's when you get Ra.
Oh, well, now that I'm looking at it, there's kind of
Two
like
events.
6 tiles, and it looks like 4 of them are kind of activated, and then 2 of them are locked. And so I'm guessing the one on the 10th is the penultimate like phase, the
Yeah.
penultimate second to last event, and then the last event maybe is on the 15th.
It might
So
have to
the
do with Arcana, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. But I'm thinking maybe like the first event was when we ran into that first rare hunter. Second event was Arcana. Third event was Marik first time. Fourth event was Marik second time, which unlocked the gate. And then the next thing is like maybe Super Marik or Arcana or something. And then God card comes on the 15th.
Yeah, and also, this might not have anything to do with it, but Bones is going to come through a Duelathon event, and Bones did show up during the Battle City arc, so we might be getting these new characters before the Egyptian God card, maybe.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah. So, yeah, just don't leave the game for too long, I guess, because they're gonna update this event, and it's gonna be a long event. So it's still gonna be going on this time next week.
Yeah.
But changes are happening. There's a spoiler. If you want to stop, if you don't want to listen to the spoilers, turn this off right now and come
Well,
back
no,
to it.
skip ahead like 15 or
Yeah, we'll have
30
timestamps.
Yeah.
But we can only get one copy of the Winged Dragon of Ra. That's a Datamined thing. And also, regular Marik shows up at the end of the event. So he might be playable.
Yeah.
Get some
I'm
new guys for
always
you to level
down.
up. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I always love new characters because of the way that I play the game, which is mostly through auto dueling while I'm at work or something. I I very quickly go through my characters, and so I always love it when there's new characters to level up so that I can get more gems, but also so that there's just new skills and new cards to try out. It's always just a really fun time.
And the thing is that Marik never really duels. Like the normal Marik never really duels. And people say he gets Gravekeepers, but that's all a Shizu, so I don't know. I don't know what cards he's going to give you, but he's been in the data mines for a while as a playable character, so it's possible we get him. We'll see.
Yeah.
And finally, this time they made a new card trader called the EX card trader. He just got new clothes. I guess he's blinged himself out, and yeah, he's gold. you could trade EX gems with him.
I saw him more as being like ephemeral or something, like he's because to indicate the fact that he's only there for a limited amount of time.
That's true. I didn't pay attention.
I don't know.
The most important thing is that we can get a second copy of Wetlands now. And
How excited are you about that?
there's a deck on Reddit people put up, and it doesn't run Uguchi, which I wanted it to run, but it runs 3 submarine frogs, 3 unifrogs, and a lot of back row support. So yeah.
I saw Hammer Shark as well to get out
Yeah.
more of the little guys.
Yep. That's gonna be the new meta. I'm telling you. And also, you could get some of the merit cards, like the Ra's Disciple, stuff like that. If you get bad luck farming him.
Yeah.
And speaking of farming, it's pretty easy actually. You could do it with Ojamas, which are free because you get Chaz Princeton, so they all come with him. And the main strategy is just to lock down his board because he needs 2 monsters to get the Masked Beast out. He needs a Masked monster and a regular monster, so a Fiend. Well, and the Ojamas get extra attack because they have the high defense, and you just flip their attack and defense. So it's pretty good. This method's really reliable, and it's good for 8 rewards. You build your Ojama deck with a Vassal. I have all the ingredients here. You put polymerizations in and some tutor cards for polymerization, and Ojama Country to flip their attack and defense. Use any character with Restart, and you definitely want a Fusion card, or 2 Ojamas or Ojama Blue. 2 Ojamas probably best. And you get a Knight out or a King, probably a Knight in the first turn. You play in defense, so it does not get the Mask of the Accursed. Because if you put in attack mode, it gets the Mask of the Accursed, or it gets hit by something. So it's possible. Yeah, it's possible you get your Ojama Country out and you want to play it, so you get like a big guy on the board, but then it gets the mask on it. If it gets masked, or if the Dark Geroid hits it, because the Dark Geroid would make you have 9,900 as your final attack on your vassal, and that's just one-off lethal. So you don't want to do that. You want to polymerize that Ojama that's been hit into a second Ojama Knight. Stall the game. When you're at your last turn, you make your Ojama King. You play your vassal, play Ojama Country, Union attack, Secret Pass, Union attack. Sometimes you run out of space. Oh, you have to play anti-magic arrows too, because he has a Nightmare Wheel, which counters you too. So,
right.
Yep, and it's good for eight duel assessment, even if you take no damage. So, pretty good.
Nice. Cool. Well, like I said, I haven't actually even tried yet, so that's the one method that you guys get that is sponsored by the show, and sounds like it's going to work well, so I'm going to be using that one as well.
Yeah, there's also other ones online. Guns Blazing put one without Union Attack, which always scares me, because I always feel like you do need Union Attack, and they do give out free Union Attacks from Bingo, I believe. I forget what way you get Union Attacks, but back then, Yugioh was the only one who dropped them, and people were missing some from farms. But now I think it's a lot easier. So, I mean, if you happen to have no Union Attacks, look at Guns Blazing's video of how you do it. I don't even know what he did, but yeah.
Cool. We'll check it out.
Yep. Some reminders of Datamined Characters. Cyrus with Viacroids, Tyranno Hasselberry with Dinosaurs, and Sartorius with Arcana Force cards. And also with Dataminds, this event has a bunch of characters that are going to come, like Bones, Arcana, and regular Marik. So we don't know when they're coming, but it's probably these normal characters will come before the GX characters, but a lot of new characters are coming down the pipe, and we're going to see new events for these GX characters as well. So yeah, we're moving on to the Duel School, and one of the most unexpected decks to arise from Blades of the Spirits is a deck that involves Temple of the Mind's Eye, which is a N rarity field spell. I mean, this card looked interesting at first when I saw it, but then I thought nothing of it really. And this deck is a bit like the Weevil Burn deck, except you run Yugi with Destiny Draw, and you use the Temple instead of Amazoness Swordswoman. So any battle damage that comes out will become exactly 1,000. So they run direct attacks with Inaba, White Rabbit, and Sky Star Ray. So they hit for 1,000 each time. And these cards also counter Wall of D because they leave the field and they get their original attack when they come back. Lava Golem exists to burn the opponent down and also, clear their board. So Lava Golem's a fit. And it runs a lot of trap cards. Oh yeah, just to say that the field obviously protects them from damage, because every time they take damage, it's only 1,000. And there's a lot of stall traps like Massive Morph, Draining Shield, Impenetrable Attack, Floodgate, Econ, stuff like that. So, a lot of protection on their end, and also they deal 1,000 each time to you. So it's a bit of a slower thing. It's less explosive without Amazoness Swordswoman, but it's everywhere. I faced this deck a ton. I didn't know what it was when I faced it. So basically, you just have to manage your damage, right?
Yeah, and so basically you have the 1,000 works especially well with the deck because you can control your destiny draws. So you can play it as let yourself have 2 and then draw whatever you want, and then you can start preventing damage and gaining life, Massive Morph something, and then also Draining Disc it so that you just gain a buttload of life. And then you're just pinging them away every turn for 1 or 2,000, depending on what you have. And it's really strong once you can get it going, and if they don't have any disruption for it.
Yep. So, you can't take damage every time, but I have beat this deck just by taking damage so they don't have a monster on the board. You definitely have to counter their back row, their face down trap cards. That's what makes this deck good. So, straight flush, I have seen. Sergeant Electro is a normal counter that you see in many decks. So those are natural. Straight flush is a bit of a... I don't know. I've seen it in Cyber Angels, on the list I showed you.
Yeah, but you don't see it like often. That was, I think, specifically to counter this type of deck.
That guy was really proud of his deck. That's why he SM'd it.
That's right.
Yeah. Ninja decks have Masked Ninja Abisu, which can return the field spell, or the back row, and Red Eye Zombie, and other decks use Storm. I have faced a version with this with Aegis of Gaia, and I was playing handless, and I stormed, their field and also their Aegis of Gaia to kill them. So Storm is pretty good against this deck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Yep. So, yep.
One last one, actually, is the return of Harpies. We got a little bit of Harpie support, and it hasn't really taken off, but maybe you can use it to counter this stuff if it gets too prevalent.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm excited about Harpies. I played it, the tiny bit of PvP that I played this week was playing with Harpies.
Oh.
And I went like 2-2. It's okay.
Yeah, and think about any other cards like Cosmic Cyclone or Parallel Twister, things like that just do like one spell spot removal that could be useful against this deck, maybe.
Yeah, for sure. You definitely want some sort of spell or trap removal, I think, at this point.
Yep.
Do we want to talk about the other deck, or did you have more on this one?
That's all I have. Just to be prepared against this deck, and not be taken by surprise. So.
Yeah. And speaking of being taken by surprise, and also that last deck, we saw another deck that was posted on Reddit that also abuses Temple of the Mind's Eye and uses Backup Squad, which I actually saw in the first deck. Sometimes they run Backup Squad as well. Maybe just like one copy, though, to get all of their pieces, their damage-dealing pieces. Whereas in this one, you use Backup Squad because it's an Exodia deck, and you are using it to draw. So you set up the Temple of Mind's Eye, which makes everything 1,000 damage, and then you play Backup Squad, which is whenever you take 1,000 damage, you draw a card for each 1,000 damage that you've taken. And then you play a continuous trap, Solemn Wishes. And you play 2 copies of it if you can. You play 3 copies. You activate 2 copies if you can. So you have your whole back row and also your field spell filled. So you need all 4 of those pieces. But once you have it, if they don't have any removal, you're almost guaranteed to win unless they're also an Exodia deck, which would just be like insane amounts of memery. So what it does is every time they deal damage to you, it gets limited to 1,000, and then you draw a card, and then the draw card triggers both of the Solemn Wishes, which are whenever you draw a card, you gain 500 life. So you gain 1,000 back since you have 2 wishes out. And so you just, the video that we saw, which we've linked, it's like the person just keeps attacking in because either they've given up or they don't get it. and it's for each attack, Exodia player draws a card and gains the life back for the damage of the attack. And then once you draw all 5 pieces, even if it's the very last piece, you just instantly win with Exodia. So they can't like deck you out or anything by it.
This seems better. This seems better than the Turbo Draw Exodia.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I think that it would be really good if this other deck that we talked about first, the Spicy deck, didn't exist. Because up until this set came out and this kind of got popular, we didn't really see very much, if any, back row removal in a lot of decks. Maybe just that Cosmic, whatever is called, Cyclone or something, as a one-of in some decks. But this deck, the Exodia deck, can also even withstand usually one of its pieces dying once or even twice because you have a little bit of time to kind of catch up and find another one if you need to. So if there weren't an influx of back row removal, I think this might be viable. But I think as the meta stands, like you said, the spicy deck is kind of getting everywhere, and as a result, I think you're going to see a little bit more of these things that we talked about, like the Storm or the Straight Flush or various other back row removal or control that'll make this one a little bit weaker as well.
It's kind of hilarious that set, like, Six Samurais just got completely overshadowed by an N spell.
Maybe. I don't know. I think the Six Samurai are doing well. I mean, we saw a couple of them in the top 4 of the Reddit. I talked again to my friend Will last night, actually, and he's playing Six Samurai, loving it. So I think there's something there. I'm going to try it myself. I think the set overall was massively successful because you've got like their main theme that did well, and you've also gotten these kind of sub themes or just random cards, I guess, that are also doing pretty well. So that's good to see. You like to see a set actually get some play, but not at the same time be oppressive. So hopefully Spicy Meatball doesn't get too oppressive.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know what's going to change with any nerfs or anything, and so maybe this deck becomes number 1. We don't know. But yeah, it definitely makes Blades of the Spirits better, more valuable, less dead cards. I guess that's good.
Yeah, and it's always cool when like a really good card is an N, because then you can just buy a little bit of it and be done with the set. If you don't feel like trying out the Six Samurai, you don't really have to put very much into the set at all.
Nope. Yep. All right. So that's all we have for today. Thanks for listening. You can find this podcast on the App Store, Google Play, Stitcher, and others. Check out the podcast and more at the website, theduelassessment.wordpress.com. We have a YouTube channel as well. If you want to help support us, patreon.com/duel_assessment. Send us an email at theduelassessment@gmail.com, or you can find us on Twitter, duel_assessment, me at GreenRanger HS, and HS at DeckTech at HS DeckTech. And we also stream now too, so.
Yeah, starting to stream. I still have to download it from my desktop, but I finally got the desktop, so I'm like ready to go on that.
Okay.
And I know people don't really email anymore these days, but you can use Twitter as the substitute email if you. I think DMs are open. You can slide in.
Yep. Get us in. All right. So that's it for this episode, and next week we have our special episode, hopefully. So we'll see you then.
Yeah. See you guys next time.